Our podcast is a part of the World Podcast Network, now with over 1,000 podcasts. Visit the World Podcast Network at worldpodcast.network to listen to podcasts in over 12 genres. Come vote our podcast episodes up and help us rise on the leaderboard. If you have a podcast of your own, you can join for free. Welcome to Reality Tea Times 2, the podcast where we discuss all the trash reality TV we love to hate. I'm Tanika, and today we're going to be discussing B90, the part 1 of the tell-all. Yes, I still sound like shit, but it is what it is. I am getting better, but I just sound like shit. So let's start with some hot goss. So first piece, Mary Brown is giving an update on where she currently stands with Robin. So she says Robin and I don't really talk a lot. Go figure. And she admits this to people exclusively. She says, I know that it was really hard for her when I left, and I suspect that she's probably just trying to figure out her life completely different than she thought it was going to be. I'm not sure that their day-to-day life has changed a whole lot because it's been the same thing. It has been for the past, few years. But just knowing that she's full-on monogamous, I'm sure that she has been trying to navigate that herself, but she and I don't have a lot of interaction. Acknowledging how they were close, the businesswoman, Mary, says, I feel like right now I'm just needing to focus on me and my future and who's going to be a cheerleader for what I'm trying to do in my life. Though she was not as close to former sister wives Christine and Janelle, Mary has had some one-on-one moments with the pair on shows that during the 19th season of the show, which we're currently talking about. She and Christine shared an emotional moment, as we know, at Gwendolyn's bridal shower, so she's kind of had that. And obviously her and Janelle have been talking about Cody Pass, so there's also that. Mary does say, where Christine is concerned, she notes that it was really cool trying to cheer me on during the meetup at Gwendolyn bridal shower or engagement party. I don't even know what it was now. She says, I was in a place of thank you for being cool. Are we going to start building a relationship from here? Is this a point? I thought that was really cool. I just wanted to tell her I love you. I loved our relationship that we had in the past. So I think we were just in a place of cheering each other on and supporting each other. So it was a good moment. Mary says there's always a chance for the pair building a relationship again, saying it really just depends on if both parties are involved. Right now, I don't think she's at that place. I don't think she wants to. I am totally happy with where I am in my life as well, and I wish her all the best. Our paths are not aligned. We're not living parallel lives right now, but they might cross. I never know. As far as Janelle goes, she and I have conversations on occasion. They're usually quick conversations, but it's a little bit here and there, so it's nice. So that's basically that. But I'm happy that she's kind of, I guess, given herself the space from Robin, because I feel like Robin is very about her, as we've seen. So that's that. Next piece of hot goss. Now this one I know it's been a little slower on the updating about this, but this was very sad to hear. This is involving a death of a 90-Day Fiancé cast member, and that is David and Lana. He passed away at 66 after having health struggles. So his family announced the news in a heartbreaking statement, saying, we are deeply saddened to announce that David Murphy of Las Vegas, Nevada, passed away at home on December 11th, 2024, after experiencing health issues over the last several years. His time on the show allowed him to connect with viewers, see the world, and share his experiences with his thousands of followers on Instagram. He will be deeply missed by his family, friends, and fans. His exact cause of death is unclear. He is survived by his 2 sisters. He also had a lifelong love of cats. As we know, he had a kitty. and left behind his beloved cat, Gamera, the family said, and asked his fans to donate to the Animal Foundation in his name. The small business owner had over 89,000 Instagram followers at the time of his death. He shared a health update with his followers during his last Instagram Live, which was posted on March 2023, saying, "I've been ill," basically. He said before adding that he was in Las Vegas because that's where he had medical insurance. He said he was in and out of the hospital for the past 3 months. "They don't know what it is. My liver's not working right." He said he turned bright yellow during his illness and that he faced multiple tests and procedures as doctors worked to figure out what was wrong with him. So the full statement, I am going to read it. So if you don't want to hear the whole thing, maybe skip maybe a minute or two to the next piece. But I am going to read the full statement. So his family announced his death on Wednesday with the following statement. "David was a veteran, small business owner, and software engineer. He had recently retired from the Clark County Treasurer's Office in Nevada, having also worked for H&R Block and IGT. He was also well known for his time as a cast member on 90 Day Fiancé before the 90 Days. His time on the show allowed him to connect with viewers, see the world, and share his experiences with his thousands of followers on Instagram. He'll be deeply missed by his family, friends, and fans. David has survived by his 2 sisters and his cat Gamera. The family asked for privacy during this difficult time. As many knew, David had a fierce love for cats. He always made an effort to adopt cats and give them a good loving home. David's choice for adopting was from the Animal Foundation in Las Vegas. For friends and fans who want to help, we ask that you honor his memory by making a donation to the Animal Foundation in his name." And that's basically that. It's very sad. He was a character, as we know. We thank him for the laughs that we did get from him on his season. And we did see him again during the they did the special when it came to the war in Ukraine. I think that's the last time I remember seeing him. And he definitely gave us the laughs of, trying to find Lana. He was trying to find her, y'all. And it's different now. But yeah, so that's, it's very sad. But that's that. The last piece of hot goss. This will be quick. Bilal and Shida had their baby. And I'm sure at this point everyone has probably seen the picture, so I won't post it, but I mean, we'll see. Maybe I'll change my mind. But they did post on Instagram their baby. You can't really see his face, but we do see him. And yeah, they look very happy, and I'm happy for them. Especially happy for Shida, because this is something that she wanted. So yeah, that's basically it. That's it for hot goss. Let's get into the reason that we are here. B90 Tell All Part 1. This music that we start off with, I was actually thinking it was going to be like Vanya that we're going to see. Nope, it's just Lauren just coming out of the depths of the underground. And he just walks up to these pigeons. He's like, "How you doing, pigeons? How are you? Yeah. Wish me luck, you guys. I know you're not going to shit on me like the others will." Why is he talking to the pigeons? I mean, I like a pigeon here and there too, don't get me wrong. But why are we talking to them? That's weird. He's not right. Brian is an asshole as per usual. Vanya and her Sex in the City moment, she out here kind of looking like one of them. Samantha. Samantha one. She's one, right? What's the others? Whatever. Listen, I have watched episodes. Do I remember their names? No, I don't. I remember Samantha, and she is me. I am her. That's maybe why I remember Samantha. Anyway, so yeah, she's having her moment, and she looks great. Then Brian when they're kind of slowly rolling. Oh, fuck. Slowly. I didn't mean to. Slowly filing in to the green room. Fuck, I'm horrible. I'm going to hell. So Brian is like, hey, Lauren. So, what's up, my guy? Like, you're like Denny's. You're just open 24 hours for everyone. Shit. Now, see, Brian pisses me off, but that was fucking funny. That was funny. That was good. And he says, yeah, the girl who gave it to me, she called me up last night to basically say, like, we're going to the movies when I come back. Because apparently she's in, like, Turkey or something. I don't know. And he's like, well, I mean, if she's paying, like, sure, I'll go. Hold on to that one, because what we're about to find out when we get on stage is that, I won't give it away yet, but we're about to find out what's going on with him and Faith. And I'm like, I don't know if Faith would agree that it's just okay for you to go, but more on that later. Joey is in his like Jersey Shore moment right now. Okay. Kind of reminds me a little bit of like a Ron without the trouble. And Ron is doing great, guys. But he is like, I could give 0 fucks about people's opinions. And I'm like, that is the way to go. Unlike Adnan, you should have passed that memo over to him. More on that later, too. I am disappointed in what we could have had with Tiger Lily, and I'm pissed. We'll get to that later. So, Niles is just adorable, and he's like, if I get too mad, he's telling this to Matilda, if I get too mad, just stop me. And then when he gets to there, he's trying to get out of the car, he's like, let me out. Like, he couldn't get out, poor thing. And then cue the assholes, which is Tiger Lily and Anon. And they're like, or she's like, it doesn't bother me that like he's controlling. Like, it's fine. It's fine. Like, I'm perfectly fine with him being controlling, even though I divorced my ex-husband for that exact fucking reason. But like, it's fine. It's fine. This is what I want. It's fine. Because she has a fucking kink. And it's okay. If you have a kink and your kink is being controlled, that's fine. But then don't come out here and being like, I divorced my husband because he was controlling and like I couldn't have any friends. So that's the reason why my only friends are service providers. And like I didn't have any friends because he was so controlling. But like, I'm empowered. I'm better than that. I have a life coach and everything. It's fine. But I really, really like being controlled by Adnan. It's fine. Like, get the fuck out of here. Anyway. So Sean's coming out. We're all out there on stage now. Sean comes out and she's looking great as always. Orange is definitely her color. And when we got kind of started, we just have to remind everybody that we're missing a couple, and that is Chicken Lady and Chidi. So they're not going to be here because we fear the safety of the other couples if Chicken Lady's on the stage. She's going to talk about chickens and the Illuminati and all this shit. It's just not going to be good. So because of that, we're just not going to have them on. I really feel like we could have at least had Chidi on to speak his mind, to speak his truth. We don't need to have Chicken Lady out here. Fuck that shit. But we could have at least had Chidi. But anyway, we know how this works. So that's that. Tiger Lily had the baby, and he is precious. He's so cute. And he's 7 weeks old. So Lauren and Faith, they talk every day. They are back together, y'all. Wait a minute. So the person who you claim gave you the illness of the horse is inviting you to go out to movies when she comes back from wherever the fuck she is. And Faith is okay with this? Or does Faith know? Like, what is happening? Yeah, more on that later, I'm sure. Faith does not have the ring, though, because I guess they are supposed to be engaged again. She doesn't have the ring that costs like $2, but she doesn't have the ring. He apparently shipped 5 different ring boxes in hopes that the right one would get to her, but apparently, drug dealers went through and got the ring that cost, dude, they were pissed. It cost like $2. So they're trying to get like the money for the ring, and they're like, this is fake. Those were fake diamonds. They were so mad. Because that's not real. But anyways, he's telling the story about how like they went through the ring boxes and they got the ring, and she got there when they got there, like she didn't have it. And I'm like, what is the story? Wow. Um, so they do, or Sean asks like to Faith, do you see yourself as engaged? And I tell you guys, we're watching her for a good 10 seconds. Think about her answer. It's literally like, no. That's literally what happened. It was just like this long fucking pause of nothing. And I'm just like, I'm literally like, is her connection still connected? Like, is she good? Like, is she broken? What happened? Like, it was nothing. But she says no. She does not see herself as engaged. And you know what? I don't even know why she's with him personally, but we'll talk about that later. Vea is not in studio because she is sick. She hasn't been well since she got back home from South Africa. We'll talk about that more in depth later, a little later. But she says she has not been doing well. She apparently can't swallow. And she also lost a lot of weight because she probably can't eat properly. And they apparently, she says, found gallstones. So that's maybe the culprit. Here's what I'm gonna say, y'all. As a person who has suffered from a gallstone, and had to have the bladder removed, it doesn't cause you to not be able to swallow. You can still eat all of that. Because when I heard her say that, I'm like, what? I mean, I'm sure everyone else's experience is different, but just kind of knowing, like with my experience, my grandmother's experience, my grandpa's experience, because he currently has a gallstone too. It runs in the family, y'all. I don't know if I'm not gonna say names, but I do have a friend also who dealt with gallstones as well at a very young age, much younger than I was. And you can eat and you can swallow the food and it goes through your digestive tract. And then once you kind of hit a point, especially if you're eating fatty foods and whatever, then it doesn't run through properly. And that can cause you to obviously not digest it properly, and it usually comes back up the way it went in. But it doesn't cause you to not be able to swallow. Could it potentially cause you to lose weight because you're not processing the food the same way, or you're not being able to process the food, digest the food? Yes. But it's just, when she said that, I'm like, that doesn't sound right. So more on that later. So Joey, we move on to them. Why in the Lord's name can't you say your girlfriend's name? Why do you keep saying Magna or Magma? Why can't you say Magda? It's not hard. And he's like, I don't know. But in my defense, people apparently call her Madja, or because her name is Magdalena, I think, right? So I think whatever he said, like he said, it's similar to what her full name would have been, or what is, I should say. And he's like, I guess it confused his little brain, and he kind of combined Magda and whatever, like her family or whatever they call her, and he came up with Magna. And I'm like, no, sir, no, it's Magda. It's not hard. Magda makes more sense than whatever the fuck you just said. But like, whatever, like maybe with the accent, that's what you're hearing. But they're calling her Magda. But maybe just with the accent, that's what you're hearing. But it's Magda. Hell, you could call her Mags, and that's probably better. But it's not difficult. My lord. Anyway, and I personally wrote, though, at the end of him saying that was because I'm dumb. That's not what he said, though, but that's what I say. Niles and Matilda, they have not seen each other now for 10 months. Um, and yeah, he's kind of dealing with the paperwork and stuff like that, so that's kind of where they're at. Brian has a new girlfriend, bless her heart. And Ingrid is also in a relationship as well. And that's basically the catch up. We're just going to be heading right into the very first couple. Okay, so we start with Lauren and Faith. So y'all are back together. Why are they back together? Like, I mean, I'm sorry, but there is something that Brian says here in a second that does drive me a little bit nuts, but we'll talk about that in an isolated situation. But I do have to kind of agree on the front of, if you're gonna go back to the person you felt was putting you in some kind of danger, then yes, your reaction then could have been an overreaction. Because why are you gonna go back to the person who you felt was putting you in some kind of danger? And whether, you have this thing of no one's gonna love me because of who I am, and though I could never understand that necessarily, I do get what she's saying. But you have to have some semblance of self-respect. Personally, and maybe this is just me being more cynical, but personally, I would rather be alone and single for the rest of my life, um, than be with someone who isn't fulfilling me. And I think that's the part that is missing for me where Faith is concerned. So, yeah, they're back together, but not engaged, at least in her mind. And she just starts crying. And Vanya has a very good question here. She says, like, let me ask you this, like, are you with him because you actually really do love this person? Or are you with him because you're kind of trauma bonded? That part. And she says that she wants to be loved. She said no one accepts her, which, we've heard her say before, and I get that, but like, don't lower yourself for this, And Niall says, which is like, you shouldn't have to be told this, but maybe she does need to be told this, but this doesn't just apply to romantic relationships. This applies to any, form of a relationship. But Niall says, Lauren has shown you who he is, so believe him. So why would you go back to a person who has literally shown you he don't give a shit about you? And it's okay to push limits sometimes. So Lauren, Niles asks Lauren, do you hear yourself talk sometimes? Because like he's saying, like whatever he was saying this moment is just pure nonsense. And Niles has no patience. And he's like, do you hear yourself? And he's like, I do hear myself. And they're kind of talking about the fact of like he's kind of inappropriate in certain situations. Joey even says like you smile when she's like crying, like it's weird. And although I understand that maybe it's a nervous tick for him, and as I get it. Sometimes I can also, smile in weird situations. I totally understand that. But you're able to, at least for me anyways, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, I'm able to get that out. Have that weird moment for maybe 10 seconds and I can switch back to, okay, this is not the right time. It's more of an uncomfortable thing, but I have to sit in that uncomfortableness, right? And you can at least make your face be eventually back to how you're actually really feeling. This guy just sits there and smiles ear to ear and doesn't like, it's it's inappropriate. And it does come across as like you don't really actually care what she's saying. And if that's like a weird nervous tick, then say so. Maybe he did and it was edited out. But like you could say so and say, listen, like I'm not smiling because I actually am loving your, the discomfort or something. I'm uncomfortable myself. Right? So Sean ends up asking, so Niles, like, should Faith stay with Lauren? My guy starts chuckling, like an evil chuckle. And he's like, hell to the fuck no. Okay, that's where he sits. And basically, like, no one thinks that they should be together. Not a single person on my stage. Not a single person watching the show either thinks that they should be together. And Brian asks, like, are you scared to be alone, Faith? She says no, she's not afraid to be alone. She has been alone, but she just wants to be happy. And the part here that I can't remember who it was, it might have been Joey, but he says, like, but you don't look happy. You are not happy. So if your goal to be with somebody is because you want to be happy, you can be happy alone. You just have to create. Your happiness isn't created from an outside source. Your happiness is created from within. So if you can't be happy just being in yourself and being with yourself, then how can you expect anyone to make you happy? And even when you're with someone, it's really truly not that person. Well, maybe it kind of is, but it's really not that person's responsibility to make you happy. But they should want to make you happy, obviously, and they'll go accordingly. But the happiness comes from you. That's what I think, anyways. Maybe other people might think differently, but that's how I think. My happiness comes from how I feel about a person. And that goes based on how they show affection or whatever, or how our views align or whatever. But that's not happening here. Their views don't align. She's not happy with this person. So why? Why be with this person then? That's the question. So we kind of start talking about the whole knife thing. Lauren says that it was a weird reaction, I guess, for him because he says that he was already doing that with the knife for about 30 minutes before the reaction actually happened, which maybe we know editing, is chopped up and everything like that. But it also looked like he was doing other things as well with the beer can and whatever else he was doing. And do I think it was potentially a weird, because he was in a funk? Yes. But he was also, I kind of agree with Niles to an extent that he knew what he was doing. Whether he knew it was going to warrant that, like elicit that reaction out of her, he knew what he was doing was going to come across as odd and weird. And the reason he did it was because what he expected out of a lawyer's meeting didn't happen. So he's upset. So I do think, like what Niall said with that is very true. But yes, he says he was doing it for 30 minutes. And everyone agrees, like with kind of Niles was saying and everything like that, is like, no, like you knew what you were doing, like that's like weird. At the very least, it's a weird thing to be doing. And Brian is like, I think she overreacted. Sit down. Wait, sorry, I can't say that. Brian, you can't speak on this. Sorry, you just can't speak on this. Faith has said very explicitly where that reaction came from. So you can't speak on that. And you don't know Faith's experience. I hope not, but she could have dealt with something like this in her past that warranted that reaction. Then we kind of move on a little bit and start talking about him having sex with people behind her back. And he's like, I have actual chat logs where I told her that I was having physical sex with people. And when Sean asked, okay, well, Faith, is that true? See, Faith, I didn't find her credible in this moment. And I hate that I have to say that. But she says, like, I don't remember. I don't recall. I don't remember. Um, I'm not familiar. And then we bring out his ex/friend Esther, and she says that he tends to go the path of having backup plans. Because if one thing doesn't work, well, then at least he has the backup plan. And until someone says, like, no more with the backup plans, like, he's going to continue what he is doing. And she says, which I don't even know how she can. I mean, maybe he told her, I don't know, but the thing is, it's like, because I don't find him credible, I don't find Esther credible, because he's going to tell you whatever version works for him. He isn't going to tell you the actual truth. Because here's the thing. He's lying to you. And we know he's lying to you. And what she's about to say here. Because Faith was under the understanding that they were officially together. He even says, she's probably not going to like the fact that I was having sex with other people. Like, I'm not sure she knows if we're going to have, like, did we forget he actually wanted to be in, like, an open relationship as well? Like, we forgot about that, right? So did I. So yeah, he apparently told Esther that Faith never said they were officially or together, or that it was an issue that he was having sex with other people until he'd mentioned that he had the STD. Sir, she didn't even know you were having sex with other people. So, like, how can you even say that? And how did she even believe that? Because didn't she say that she didn't know? And also, can we remember here too that Esther bought lingerie for Faith that she never got to wear? She spent like $50 on lingerie that Faith never wore. Forgot that too. But she also says, um, that he says, like, he told her that he was sleeping with people. And Esther apparently had the conversation with him saying, I don't know if she understands sleeping. I don't think she necessarily thinks sex. I think she means actual sleeping in her mind. Like, did you clarify that? And his response back to her, oh, well, she speaks English. She understands. You're an idiot. Like, she doesn't, she knows, yes, English. She speaks English well, but that doesn't mean that certain things don't translate the same way. You know, like, even in the English language, sometimes certain things are not interpreted the same way. So why would he even think that she's going to necessarily understand what that meant, right? So that's ignorant on his part. Um, and so I can't remember my notes here. So he basically says, like, she didn't say no to, the whole, like, him having sex with other people. I think that's what it was about her saying, not saying no to. And Niles comes in and he's just like, so if someone told you to jump off of a cliff, you're gonna do it? And Lauren says, honestly, and I mean this truthfully, yes, I would. And Niles' response back was, so why don't you go do it then? Like, why haven't you done it? Like, really? And he's like, actually, I have actually dropped off a cliff. Because you're probably going cliff diving. We've all watched Twilight. Some of us, maybe not all of us. But we all saw Twilight, right? We all saw New Moon when they would go cliff diving. It's not that big of a deal. Well, except for when Bella fell in and then she almost got killed by Victoria. You know what? Moving on. So, um, I think, so I'm sorry. Where am I at now? Yeah, so then we ask about him buying this ticket. Did you actually buy a ticket to see Faith? So you see, the one thing I had to give Sean this season is she's coming in with the heavy hitter questions. They are hearing us, y'all. Just keep yelling about it, and it's gonna happen. We're gonna get better questions. Don't want to lose Sean. Sean's a staple in this in this series until she's ready to retire, y'all. We're sticking with her. Anyways, um, so he says no. It was actually part of a pyramid scheme. I'm sorry, what? What do you mean, a pyramid scheme? Where does this pyramid scheme fit in? Who knew, y'all? We're going to start talking about pyramid schemes. So apparently, he tells us the story about how he met this other girl who says she was a trans woman and said to him, like, I'm so in love with you. So he bought a ticket. But it turns out that woman actually was not a trans woman. So she basically, it's not necessarily a pyramid scheme. She just scammed him. That's what it sounds like. Um, so he apparently took all of his money and spent it on this person, like sent it to her, like every last dime. So the reason this man is broke is because he has no money, because he gave all of his money away to this fake trans woman that was talking to him in the Philippines. So then, because he's like, well, I have this ticket, I have to go to the Philippines. Like, he's not going to waste the ticket now. He had to start talking to Faith. So that's basically how. So basically, Faith, this is how I know, like, does he really love you? Does he really want to be with you? Because he went to you because the first person ended up being a scam and not being exactly what he wants. And obviously this person doesn't give a shit. So it's just like, that's what, I'm sorry, but I just couldn't take that seriously, personally. So yeah, he met her apparently a few days after all of his money was gone. So the last time he saw Faith was about 11 months ago, because he doesn't have the money to go see her, let's be real. So they asked, okay, so in that 11 months time, Sean asks him, have you had sex with anyone? So he says in the week after he came back and they were not together, he did have sex with somebody. Oh, y'all, guess who it was too? It actually ended up being the same girl who gave him gonorrhea. So you are stupid. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I still believe he's the one who gave it to her, personally. But, if you are of the belief that she's the one who gave it to you, then why would you go back to the person who, I mean, I can't speak. We have all been in certain, maybe not all of us, but I've been in a situation as well, where I wasn't sure where I was getting it from either. I did eventually, though, figure out who I was getting my situations from. And I stopped all physical contact with that person. I haven't even seen nor spoken to this person in over 10 years. Because I'm like, no, no, no. Like, especially because I was going to him and saying, it's you, you're the problem, and you need to go get yourself checked out and do what you need to do. He wouldn't do it. He basically would lie about it. And I'm just like, that's disgusting. I'm not touching you any longer. And I never did. I never did. So I just don't understand that logic of, especially if you are of the impression that it's her, then why would you go back to her? At the end of the day, I still think it's him. So I have to turn that back around on her. You most likely got this from him. So why would you go back and have sex with the same person who potentially gave you an STD? I have questions and concerns all around. But anyway, who does not hear must feel, I guess. But Faith, did you know about that he saw the same person? And she's like, I just don't want to think about it because he's so good. He's such a nice person. No, girl, no. You need to think about it. You need to think about it because when you start to think about it, you remember, oh, this is why I shouldn't be with this person. And eventually it's going to get through to you. You can't put your, bury your head in the sand and be like, I don't want to know. No, this is not how this works. Um, so yeah. But I think it was Joey that says, you're avoiding the questions. And she is. She's avoiding the question because I guess she doesn't want to look stupid, but um, it's maybe too late for that. Not so much stupid. She doesn't look stupid. She just looks, it's actually really sad that she thinks like this is the best that she can get. Um, so she says like oh sorry, no. We then get another before sneak clip of, I guess this was in the car after they talked about being bottoms. And he then continues on with the conversation and says, hey, did you know? I actually like to drink pee sometimes during sex. Listen, if you want to be peed on, go for it. I'm all about that. Go ahead and get peed on. I can maybe, even though I would never, can maybe understand in the moment if you're like really riled up and like whatever. I can understand maybe wanting to be peed on. I can totally get that. I am not drinking any part of your bodily fluids. Well, maybe that, but not pee. And it's just like, I just, I'm not surprised by it though. Like with Laura Lauren's concerned, I'm not surprised by it, but I just don't understand. But then, honestly, I do question if he even understands what he is. Like, if we fully understand what he's talking about here, we'll talk about it in a second. So Faith is like, yuck, the straight up. And Niles, when we cut back on the stage, I actually have to, I think I understand his anger just because he doesn't like Lauren, but the shaming of everyone has a kink, the shaming of that though, I did not like. I didn't like it at all. And I think Niles it's okay to be expressive in the fact that you don't particularly like a person, but don't shame that person's kink because we all got them, honey. We all got our kinks. But he goes off and he says, there are 5 types of people in this world, and you are the last 2 that I can't stand. Stupid and evil are the things he says. Now, are you saying that just because of how he treats Faith, or are you saying that because of the kink? I do think there's a possibility he's talking more about how he treats her and how he handled the situation than the kink, but it just came across as if he's shaming him for the kink. I don't particularly like that. So they kind of were like, "Oh, how is he evil? How is he evil?" You know, because of that. And he's like, you do this for the reactions. You got a reaction out of me. Do you now feel powerful? And that's the thing. I do have to say, he does do it for the reactions. He likes to get the reaction out of people. He loves that. He feeds off of that. And it does probably make him powerful so I do understand that. But he says like you do things to hurt her, and I do think he does. And Vanya does say here though, which I think does kind of quieten us a little bit here, is we can't shame each other for our kinks. We all have them. And, yeah. But Brian says, like, are you afraid to make the tough decision because maybe he's helping you financially? Oh, is that so? Now, that part maybe shouldn't be surprising, but it is interesting at the very least because I mean, I hate that because I don't want to agree with Brian, But it is definitely a possibility that maybe that is why she's hanging on a little bit. Um, but he apparently sent her $8,000 to about $10,000, and I wrote how question mark, because my guy has no money. And he says, like, sometimes I'll even eat out of the garbage in order to send her money. But Faith also says, okay, yeah, but I didn't actually like ask him for that. He just kind of sent it. And he says, yeah, I just sent it because that's what I want to do. And I think Brian says, oh, yeah, because he wants to take care of you. But that then is on him. That's his problem. If she's not necessarily asking for the money, that is on you. And even if she is asking for the money, whether you have it or you don't have it, you make that decision. You make the final decision and say, I can or I can't send you the money. That's on you. No one can force you to send money to somebody. And again, I'm coming from a perspective where I understand this. Y'all, I had a ex-husband in another country, or when we were still married, but we had I know we were together. He was in a different country. He at one point wasn't working for a very long time. I was. I had to support the both of us. And that's the reality. And sometimes I had it, sometimes I didn't. Usually it was a regular thing, but sometimes I just didn't have it. Especially when we had to start doing the visa to get him back up here, or attempt to get him back up here, I should say. Um, it just, during that time, having to spend the money for the visa process, which came completely out of my pocket. Like, I was supposed to get help from his family, but that didn't happen. That came completely out of my pocket. Um, it, it came to a point where I'm like, I can't send you money. That is up to you. You are the person. And trust me, if I didn't want to, I didn't have to. And I knew that. He knew that. So this whole trope of, oh, like, they're asking for money, so it's gotta be a scam or some shit. You don't have to do anything. No one says you do. Now, it's different when if you're married to somebody, you feel a little more obligated because that's your husband or your wife or whatever. But it's just, no one forces you to do that at the end of the day. Anyway, so then we kind of, like, she was kind of saying, like, she said she wants to be able to buy a house for her family and or her mom and whatever. And he actually just kind of took it upon himself to be like, okay, well, I'll help. Again, that is on you. Or you feel like you have to be like this American savior. That is on you. Then we find out that he thinks that actually cum is pee because it comes from the same area. Sir, no, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Your urethra, that is where urine comes out of. And then there's another one, I can't remember what it's called right now, the vas deferens or whatever the hell else. It's been a minute since I've been in sex ed, y'all, but I know it comes from a different spot. But yes, it comes out of the same, eventually it comes out of the same place, yes. But it's two different, like, veins or whatever you want to call it. They're two different things. This idiot actually thinks, even for women, when we, have our moment, same thing. It's a different spot than when we pee out of. Same, pee and everything else come out of two different places. So, like, this guy doesn't even understand. And he kind of says, well, don't you swallow, or the hell he says, or no, not so swallow. Like, don't you, if you come, then, it's pee. No, it's not. However, and we all know this, sorry, if there's kids around you, fast forward maybe 10 seconds starting now. If a woman squirts, now that's pee. But that's two different things. So it's just like, I don't know. This guy doesn't understand how this works. And again, I'm sorry, I'm a firm believer, and I've actually said this, I've been saying this since I was a teenager. If you don't know how things work, you should not be having sex. You just shouldn't. So, okay. Moving on. We're going to take a break from them from now. Let's talk Vanya and Bojo, who will be a bozo very soon. So Bojo, okay. So he said, I just couldn't go above the beautiful feelings of being friends. What? And he also says to somebody, I just said she was out of my league. So you don't even, she's here, sir. She's here giving you the time of day. So clearly she thinks you are exactly in her league. Like, I'm sorry, when people say, oh, I'm just out of her league or she's out of my league or whatever the hell, it's a cop out. Especially if the person is there giving you the time. It is a damn cop out. So you're dumb. So An is like, why not do something? You know, kiss her, hug her, make out with her, something. Exactly. But because he just didn't want to ruin the beautiful feeling of a friendship. So then we bring out Sanella, and she kind of says to him, like, why couldn't you try? Like, why couldn't you give it a try? And he says, like, I did. And for a day, 2 days, like, that's all you did. You didn't try. Then he talks about, y'all, this is so weird that I didn't even catch it the second time I watched. He starts talking about anger management, the movie, Adam Sandler's movie with Jack Nicholson. He starts talking about anger management and about how he couldn't kiss somebody in the park or something. Like, I don't know what he's talking about. If it's like the beginning, I know there's a beginning scene in the movie. It's been a minute since I've watched the movie, y'all. I have seen the movie, but it's been a minute since I've watched the movie from beginning to end. It's been playing on TV lately, actually. But it's been a minute since I watched from beginning to end. And I do recall there's like a scene somewhere where he's like, Adam Sandler's characters was kissing somebody, whether it was when he was a kid or something. I don't know. It was weird. But he's like, he starts talking about anger management, and he's like, cool movie. And I'm like, I have no clue what scene he's talking about. The only scene from anger management I remember is when they sing I Feel Pretty. That's I feel pretty, oh so pretty. It's a pity, how pretty. Because that was the thing he had to do in order to keep his anger down, that he would have to sing that song. It's a really stupid movie. But anything Adam Sandler, honestly. And you can come at me or don't if you don't like Adam Sandler. You just don't, actually. Anyway, so yeah, he says that. Then Joey is like, okay, straight up, my God, do you have a girlfriend? Because it feels like you have a girlfriend. Like how you're acting and what you acted there then too, and the things you're saying now, like, it just feels like you have a girlfriend, and then you're trying to like save face. Um, and they're like, you know, what about the ex-girlfriend? Like, did you go back to her? You know, like, okay. So what they're trying to ask him here is, did you go back to the ex when you went back to Vanya after you ended things with her when you went back to the ex? And he says, no, he didn't. I think his terminology in this moment is that he doesn't sit in two chairs. So no. And she says, well, I don't know what he's talking about because I have text messages from her that she has in this very moment. So bring them receipts out. And I, of course, you know me, I wrote them all down. So it reads, and this is from his ex-girlfriend. Hi, Vanya, this is Bozo's ex-girlfriend. I'm wondering if you could tell when you guys start talking, how often. He was supposedly going to propose to me in December, but I broke up with him first, and I think he was talking to you then. I feel like he emotionally cheated on me with you for an entire year, and he refuses to be honest about it. I thought I was over it, but I feel shocked, humiliated, angry, and hurt all over again. So then Vanya says, and like after we read it, she says, like, I thought he was single. So Bozo, what do you have to say about this? And he says, this is where he says, I never sit in two chairs. I never mixed emotions or relationships. But the thing is, and it's said here that, of course, he doesn't think that he did because he doesn't think he did, but doesn't mean you didn't. Those are two different things. So Magda is like, I think you thought of Vanya as a friend, though. So that's why you don't feel like, you know. So they say, so were you going to propose to your ex? And he says, we talked about things, we were together for a long time, like discussions were had, but he doesn't actually fess up and say whether or not he was actually going to go ahead and propose to her. So they ask him now, are you back with your ex? And he says, no, I'm Kevin McAllister, totally alone. Okay. I love a Home Alone reference like the next person, trust me. I love Home Alone very much. However, can this man only speak in movies? Because that makes me really concerned for, this kind of person he is. But this man can only speak in that sense. And also, Kevin wasn't actually alone each time. He had the old man who lived near him. He was there. Now maybe they weren't on his side. But he still had Harry and Marv too, okay? They were still there. Spot the lie, okay? And he had the tarantula. He was never alone. And then in the second movie, I could go on, y'all. He had the hotel staff and Pigeon Lady. He was never alone. Oh, and the toy guy. What was his name? Mr. Duncan. He had him too, okay? He was never fully alone. So it lends me back to, were you really not, like, were you really alone? Because if you're using Kevin as, your thing, then you weren't alone. Anyway, it's just the weirdness of this guy speaking in movies. It's just so weird. Anyways, so they say, like, were you doubling up? Were you with two different women at the same time? And he says, no, not like that. Like, it wasn't like that. And Vonnie says, well, the math isn't mathing. Nope. And he says, I have a lot of gray hairs and sleepless nights. For what? For why? What? Because of what? Because I highly doubt that. And he says, like, I'll never make the mistakes that I made. Oh, really? What mistakes? Because you're claiming you didn't make any mistakes. So which mistakes are you talking? Like, it's just, he's, like she says, I think probably the next thing she says here is he speaks in word salads because, like, it's all of this information, but you're really saying nothing. You're saying so much, but you're saying nothing also at the same time. Like, what are you talking about? It's so weird. He's such a weird guy. So then he kind of says all of a sudden, he's like, you know what, y'all, I actually gotta go. I have to get to a meeting. I'm like 2 hours late now. Then the meeting's over. Like, if you're 2 hours late to a meeting, the meeting gone done and over. Like, what are you talking about? And Vanya says at 10 o'clock at night, like, it's 10 o'clock at night in Croatia at this point. So what are you talking about? And she's like, what do you have a meeting with vampires? Like, what do you... He has a meeting with Natalie. There we go. But it's like, it's like, who again, like, who has a meeting at 10 o'clock at night? I think the fuck not. And he says that it's, what kind of meeting did he say it was? I can't remember what he said it was. But anyways, he's like trying to like get out of it. Ron is obviously getting upset about it. And then we see balloons. And I died. For anyone who, because I don't have an Apple, like I don't have anything Apple related in my life. But I do know for those people, for some reason, who use Apple products and whatever was happening, they were getting these balloons. I heard it on many podcasts, like, that's why we drink was having the issue. Reality Gaze is having the issue. Cray is having the issue. Everyone's having the issue with the balloons, and I was dying because I'm like, oh my god, it happened. And I'm sure it was discussed on the podcast. I haven't listened to either of them yet, but it was hilarious when I saw the balloons just start popping up because I haven't actually seen the balloons happen. I usually listen audio, so I never actually saw the balloons happen. So when I see the balloons happen, I'm just like, wow, it's a lot of balloons. It's just balloons all of a sudden. And she's like, look, he's celebrating. And I said, no, he clearly said something that made the balloons happen. And again, it's like whenever you try to say something that says balloons or something that would spark the balloons, it never worked. But it just randomly happened. And I thought it was the most funniest thing I've ever seen. But anyways, so he's like, okay, I gotta go. Apologies. And Anand goes up to the screen and he's just like, what is the reason? What is the reason? He just wants answers, like the rest of us. Anywho's, that's basically that. Anand does kind of say, like, he has a girlfriend. And she's probably calling him right now. Like, that's what's happening. He's not wrong. He's not wrong. Okay, let's move on to Tiger Lily and Anand. So, the whole power of attorney situation, he says he took it back. His brother's not a power of attorney, but he clearly isn't happy about it because he says, like, I have my businesses out there. I want my brother to take care of those things. So he just didn't see the issue in having him be power of attorney. And Vanya kind of says, like, well, I mean, if it was limited to business, then like, I think you're going to say that what's the issue is limited, but Tiger Lily says it wasn't. It wasn't limited to just business. So she's like, okay, well then I understand like not wanting him to do it. Like, why couldn't he have limited it? He's like, oh, I'm not in Jordan. Yes, you are. Illegally speaking, or not, you would have been in Jordan. Be so that your brother can literally act as you know. Would he have done that? No. I don't think he would do anything to screw his brother over, but you also don't know. You can't trust that. So anyway, he said that he also did not sign a post-nup, which I think the whole grounds of the post-nup was the power of attorney situation. So if that was gone, then probably the post-nup wasn't going to happen. But he says, like, if I did, I would have invited evil into my marriage and it would have broken us up. And I do understand that logic. So I do understand that, but at the same time, with where she's at and which, I mean, it does make me wonder if the money she claims to have, because I'm going to talk about this actually. I got a video from Ava discussing Tiger Lily's wealth, quote unquote. And her ex-husband actually came out and said that most of the money that she claims to have made herself or been self-made is actually money from him. Spousal support, child support. He gives her $7,000 a month in spousal/child support. And he also gives her unlimited access to his American Express card, where she has a spending limit of $4,000 a month. So if that is the case now, I don't know the logistics of things, but if you have a spousal support situation, but then you get married, that would end the spousal support, I would think. Maybe I'm incorrect, but that's what I've always thought it would happen. But other than that, like the rest of the money she's getting is for the kids. And, having the access to the credit card is most likely for the kids as well. And for their livelihoods. She doesn't have to worry about any of that. No wonder she didn't have to worry about prenups or anything like that because that money is guaranteed. It's not ever going to be Adnan's money. It's child support. It's meant for the kids. Spousal support. It's meant for her. Now, I guess that would also depend on income and all of that and, how that works. But they divorce. That doesn't mean he gets half of whatever she gets in spousal support or child support. He's not entitled to that. So I'm not at all surprised that there was no prenup involved in that situation. She has no assets. She has no assets. None. All her assets are from her divorce. So what would you be doing a prenup for or a postnup for? Anyway, so Sean says, should she have kept on with the postnup? She says yes. And Adnan, this is when shit hits the fan. Adnan is like, well, why? Like, you didn't protect yourself from these men. You don't have to be an asshole about it either, Adnan. Like, what the fuck? So then we bring out Cruz, and he's like, why, did you get married so fast? Or, no, sorry, Vanya asks, but Cruz is out here, why'd you get married so fast? Was it because you want to have sex? And he's like, it was for family and happiness. No, it's because you wanted to get your dick wet. Please, just be honest about it. I'd rather you be honest about it. Don't make it because about happiness or all this shit you want to talk about. Because you're 22. You have plenty of time to find family and happiness. It's not about that. I wouldn't even say it's because you love her. Fine, I get that. But because you love her, you want to have sex with her. You can't have sex with her because, Allah tells you you can't. God tells you can't have sex before marriage. And his religion is not the only one that does say that. But just be honest about it. Just be honest about it. Like, I'd rather you just be honest about it and say, yeah, it was because of that. And because I love her. You could say both. It could be yes and. It had to be yes, one or the other. It could be yes and. And it's just love and family and happiness. What you talking about? Anyways. And then Vanya's like, didn't you potentially want to wait on having kids so you can have time together? And Anna's like, why? Why? Like, he wouldn't even let her finish her words, get the word out, because, like, she's not saying don't have kids. She's just saying, like, why not wait so you guys can actually have time with each other? And Cruz does say, like, no, I understand what she's saying, and I agree with her. And Sean is like, you seem to be agreeing, Tiger Lily, with everything that he has to say. But during the season, you weren't as agreeable with everything he had to say. And you actually went as far as to say he is controlling. So why are you switching up? Why aren't you keeping that same energy? So she says, okay, guys, let's get ready. Okay. She says, well, I mean, like, I think it depends on, like, what it is. Like, I need more guidelines on, like, what I'm supposed to wear. Like, he didn't really, like, go into that. Like, and I feel like the double standard. So, like, he's not allowed to have any female doctors, or he can't shake any woman's hands. Like, he can't do any of those things because he loves me. And Sean's like, well, do you really care about that, though? If he has female doctors, or can't shake hands with women. Like, do you really truly care about that? And she's like, no, of course not. But it's about the fact that if I have to do it, then you have to do it. That's all this is for her. This is a tit for tat. And I'm sorry, but no marriage lasts on that. Like, he can do it if he wants to preserve his marriage. That's what he's trying to do. And I'll give him props for that. But, like, this is not going to work. But anyways, Vanya's like, well, like, you feel like you have to conform to what he wants. And when he's like, just getting his back up, obviously, like, I'm not going to write down every little thing he said, but he's obviously getting his back up. And Niles is like, it really kills you to let her talk, huh? And he says, but I am controlling. I am the man. Say that with your whole goddamn chest. What? And I don't know if it's the language barrier or what, but he said what he said. And when Vanya has or trying to say things, right? And he's like bobbling his head, like intimidating her or whatever. And she's like, why are you bobbling your head whenever like she says anything? It's condescending, which it is condescending, 100%. Here's the thing, two things. His age is showing because I think he thinks that he needs to be this guard dog type mentality when, like, no, you don't have, like, and that's the thing. These are two different people. Someone in your 20s, as well, remember ourselves back in our 20s, we tend to care about what people think about us. But when you hit a certain point, usually like 30-ish, you stop thinking what people think. For me, I probably stopped really caring about what people thought when I was about 26, 27. I really didn't give a shit because I'm like, whatever, like, this is me, this is my life, I've been through shit. I don't got time to worry about what people think about me. All that matters is what I think about me. You get to that point, right? He isn't there yet. Tiger Lily is there because she's 40-something years old. She's been there where she doesn't give a fuck about what people truly have to think about her. And she really doesn't care if people have to think when it comes to her marriage or how she raises her kids or whatever else, right? She really doesn't give a fuck. So you have these two different people who are on opposite ends of this. How does that even work? Really, how does that work? And he's too concerned about what people think. If you're happy, you're happy. What does it matter what other people have to think? Do you have a lack of trust in your wife that you think anything these people have to say is going to change her mind? She has a child with you. She's been married to you now for however long. It's not going to change her mind. Like, we have brains. As much as he maybe thinks we don't, we have brains. People would say things, whatever, about my marriage, and I didn't care. That was my marriage. That was my relationship. Your thoughts and your feelings no longer apply unless I'm in some kind of danger. Your thoughts and feelings no longer apply because that's my husband. Point blank, period. At the same time, though, Vanya kind of being like, don't like when men talk down to women, don't like if you're using terms like you have a simple mind or whatever. I just want to make sure she's okay with her decisions. She is okay with her decisions. And worrying about whether or not she's being controlled or oppressed or anything doesn't change the fact this is what she wants. And I do feel like Vanya is wasting her time and her breath here, but this is what she wants. She made a decision. She knew exactly what she was walking into. She did. From the moment she decided to marry this man, she knew what she was doing. So it's just, it makes no sense to harp on it, I guess. I kind of want Vanya to kind of like, you can't put your views on how you view the man and woman relationship or how we talk to each other. How I would think, how Vanya thinks is very different than what Tiger Lily thinks. And whatever the reasons are why she thinks that way, it's not going to change because you think it should. Let it go. Time worth it. So let them live in whatever bliss they're currently in. Just leave it alone. So then we get a never before seen scene where we see Adnan's mom telling Tiger Lily, "You're free to do whatever you want. No one should control anyone." And she says, like, as Arabs, when it comes to like how you dress, as Arabs, we dress like that. But you're not obligated to do that because you're not Arabic. And she's like, I would not let him or any of my other children or his brothers oppress their wives. No woman should be subordinate. And I love that. But they're like, you see, Alban, you see, like, why are you doing this to her? But then he sees us as, see, my mom is telling you I am not what you think I am. Honestly, in his mind, that's how he thinks, whether you agree or disagree. I would disagree. He is not necessarily having her be subordinate, but he is controlling. And clearly his views of Islam is his views. And again, I'm going to say this as well, just because his mom may have raised him a certain way to not be, you know, really take every minute or every word of the Quran or whatever to heart, or doesn't have to be that way. No matter that, he's still an adult and can still change his views a little bit. He's entitled to do so. Do I think he does want Tiger Lily to dress a certain way because that's what his religion says and he should do? No. I think he does it because he doesn't want to be put in situations where he has to be jealous. He's self preserving. It's not about his religion. I do think that. But it's not going to change anything. This is what he wants to do. This is what he wants his wife to do. It is what it is. He's not going to change that. Maybe in time he will, but when he's really going to get to a point where I don't give a fuck, But I just don't think he's not there yet. He's not there. He's an asshole, but he's not there yet. So they say, like, Tiger Lily, how do you feel about what his mom has to say here? And Tiger Lily actually says out loud, okay, let me see how I want to word this, because she doesn't want to piss him off. And Joey says, like, it's actually giving me anxiety, like how much she's worried about not pissing him off, like walking on eggshells around him. And they're like, should he leave? Or he says, I think he might have said, like, should I go? Do you want me to leave so you can talk to her alone? And they're like, you know what? That's actually not a bad idea. So he does. He proceeds to leave, but he does say, or actually before they got to this point, he does say to Tiger Lily, careful, when she says, let me see how I'm going to word this. And they're like, oh my God, did he just say careful? Like, that feels threatening. And she says, well, like, I just think like he wants to protect me. Like, I think that's like all it is. And I don't know, I kind of went ahead a little bit, sorry guys, but Sean does kind of say, who here thinks that Adnan views Tiger Lily as an equal? I died. Sean, now that you're going backwards here, girl. That's a stupid fucking question. Think we can establish this man does not see her as his equal. And nope. But yeah, this is when Joey says you don't have to walk on eggshells. You have to think through what you say not to piss him off. And then Adnan says, you want me to leave? And yeah, so everyone's like, yeah, sure, go do that. And he's like, okay, everyone, but be careful. Because then you'll have trouble with me if you're not careful, depending on what you say. Again, very threatening. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I guarantee this man has never been in a physical altercation ever. What are you going to do? What are you... Anyways, and he walks off and he's like, there are a lot of stupid people in this world. Yes, I agree. There are a lot of stupid people in this world. But like, come on, my guy. So they kind of then ask her while he's gone, are you holding back at all? And she's like, no, I say what I want to say. Yeah. Um, and because Brian says, like, you do look beautiful in what you're wearing, but it feels like you're just a hair's throw away from wearing a Birkin. Yikes, Brian. Because I literally did think, my girl's wearing this right now because she just had a baby 2 months ago. Not because, he's telling her she has to wear this. And she does say that. This is exactly what she says. Like, I just had a baby 2 months ago. Like, what? So then, anyways, we take a break here. And he goes to her and he's like, so what'd you tell him? Nothing important. No one argued? No. It's not that big of a deal. And then again, waste of time having this conversation because again, I think we're still in your early 20s, you still think you know the world and you're hard-headed and you're not gonna listen, right? But Brian kind of has this conversation with Anand to kind of be like, my guy, you need to take a minute. You need to realize like you're gonna change. Everyone changes. It's just a way of life. Who you are now is not who you're gonna be. Who you were at 5 years old is not who you are now. Who you were at 15 is not who you are now. Like we are always evolving. And Anand just takes it for whatever reason, very literal, and says, I'm happy with my life. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I'm not taking advice from you. You're in a wheelchair. I'm not taking advice from you. I'm sorry, what? Listen. I don't dislike Brian because he's in a wheelchair. Now, was that out of his control? Not entirely. But that's besides the point. I'm not going to hate on him because he's in a wheelchair. I hate him because he's a narcissist. But I don't have an issue with him because he's in a wheelchair. And for you to attack somebody for being in a wheelchair and saying, I can't take advice from you because, like, you can't. We're not the same. Is fucking ridiculous. And I should take offense to because, again, I've talked about this already. My dad's in a wheelchair and my dad has a lot to say. My dad has lived life. And for you to come and say that someone shouldn't act a certain way because, or you can't give me advice because you're in a wheelchair, fuck you. Like, he is an asshole. And I think he really has damaged any possibility of making these two fun because Higher Lily is also going to be pretty garbage in certain things she says. It's like, doesn't make it fun. So then we go back on set and we're going to talk Niles and Matilda. But before we do, as we could see that Amnon and Tiger Lily were not out here, so then we head back with them while they're still backstage. Why is her hair taking so long? Why? Your hair's already done. And this is the only reason why Cruz is here. But anyway, he kind of starts shit. He's like, they don't respect us. And like, I didn't come here to kill anybody, but like, they just don't respect our marriage. And he's like, or she says, well, like, why does it matter? Like, who cares what they think? And she's like, I don't care. So why should you? And he just can't. Again, he is 22. He doesn't fucking understand. This is how life works. People are always going to have their opinions about things. And she literally says, like, who cares what these people think? So we go back to Sean and having this conversation. Or they fill her in on the conversation that was happening between Amnon and Brian, mainly. And Sean asked Sunny, like, do you agree with kind of how he's acting in terms of the religion and the culture? And he says that he is definitely like hiding behind it. Yeah, he definitely is. Yeah, 100%. So now let's talk about Uncle Matilda. So the visa process is, you know, not it's not an easy one. No, it's not. Especially when it comes to having to have a lot of money in order to deal with that. And he has not paid for everything. He has paid for his side of everything, but for her, that's not been paid. He says he needs another $4,000 in order to complete the process. That's a lot. Why so much? I mean, I I don't know how they do things through USCIS, but it's just in CIC, Canadian immigration. My memory of everything, now again, I'm sure the prices have changed slightly since I did it just 10 years ago. You had to pay $525 or $35 to do the sorry about that. Had a coughing fit. But yeah, so I had to pay $520 or $535 for the actual processing of the application. And then you do the additional $490, which I don't think has changed, for the permanent residency. So all in all, it was a little over $1,000. That's what you pay. Now that doesn't include everything else. You had to do the medical, the biometrics, the whatever else you had to do. Fingerprinting was also part of it. You had so much different things you had to do. That was over and beyond that fee. So it's not a cheap process. But for additional $1,000 in the US, that's ridiculous. Like, I don't know. Anyway, so Sean is like, have you thought about asking Mr. Ark for the additional $4,000? And he says, I'm gonna need to make a call later. Jokes. Mavani just asked, like, what about your parents? And he says, Did you see the show I was watching? When it comes to my parents, you see how they acted, right? She's like, yeah. She's like, okay, well, then ask that question again. So nothing has changed. They still feel the way they feel. They think she's a scammer. And honestly, I think the reason they think she's a scammer is more about the fact that she's African. Maybe it has to do with the fact that she's international, just generally speaking, but I do think it's because she's African. And that's unfortunate. But Brian, coming in with his hot takes, does ask, hey, like, if he lived in Peru, would you be good with that? Would you still be with him? She's like, yes, I'd still be with him. Like, it's about him, not where he's living. And she's like, I'd be perfectly fine if he wanted to move here. Like, I'd be okay with that. And he's like, well, you care about the American dream. That's why. What? What? Coming from the man who has constantly been dating women in Brazil. Get the fuck out of here. He wants to act holier than thou, yet you're dating a whole bunch of people in a different country as well. You're on 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days, my guy. You're here because you date international women. So don't come here and say about how she wants to come here for the American dream, yet you're not helping that situation. Like, what the fuck? This guy sucks. But she's like, listen, there are people here with money. There are rich people. Of course there's rich people. Okay, they're here who I can get my money from if that's what I wanted. But that's not what I want. And this motherfucker digs deeper and says, oh no, but those guys with money just don't want anybody off the street. What are you trying to say? That what? She couldn't get a guy with money because she's not beautiful enough? And yet here you are. Anyway. And she could if she wanted to. Asshole. Anyways, then Adnan and Tiger Lily come out. And he's like, listen, y'all, I'm just talking about respect. Okay? Respecting everyone. And Sean is like, listen, I heard about this conversation you had with Brian. Like, can you talk about that, please? And she's like, did you really say you're not going to talk to him or take advice from him because he's in a wheelchair? He's like, no, I'm not taking advice from him. He, you know, person, who's drunk, does drugs, cheating on his wife. And he's like, and Brian's like, let's go show you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Like, your age is showing. Actually, Brian, I don't know about the drinking part, but you have confessed to the drugs. Now, have you overcome the drugs? Yes, you have. Good for you. Cheating on your wife. Sir, you have been documented as cheating on the women you're with. So we do know what we're talking about in this case. And is Adnan showing his age? Yes, he is. And he says to him, I mean, I think Tiger Lily would like to have a more mature Adnan. And Tiger Lily comes out like, well, no, you're putting words in my mouth. Like, I think he's fine. Because it's fine. It's fine. Mm-hmm. This guy sucks. So Adnan then says, okay, let me ask Matilda this question. Now, Matilda, if you were out there wearing things revealing and the men are watching you, like, would he be okay with that? And Niles was like, yeah. You know what, Matilda? Go ahead and answer that question. Go answer that question, Matilda. Go ahead and answer the question. And she's like, he would be jealous. And he's like, Matt, really? Like, you didn't understand the assignment. I wanted you to disagree. So it makes me look better. Because he's an asshole. My girl just like, here's the bus. And here's Niles under said bus. Like, it's just, she wasn't playing games, y'all. Anyway, he's like, I've never felt jealous. And Anon finds that hilarious, which, you know what? I would tend to agree. He probably has been jealous. Like, we're all guilty of being jealous of someone staring at your person a little too long, I've not been jealous per se, but I did talk about this before. I have been in moments, especially when it's absolutely inappropriate, where I'm just like, the fuck you looking at? So not jealous, but I don't know, like, I don't care. You can look, just know you can't touch because that's for me. But I'm not gonna be jealous. Like, so then on, it's like, so what we have then? Sugar Daddy and Matilda? And Niles is like, Anon? And he's like, yes. I will break your face. Y'all, that's how we end this episode. I'm gonna break your face. Wow. And I do believe Niles will break his face if he needs to. Oh, y'all guys, fight. Anyways. We've been talking for a really long time. I feel this episode was like 2 hours long. That is it for this episode. That is it. Whew. We got through it, y'all. Next episode, we're going to go back to Last Resort and do the second episode. But yeah, I haven't talked about it. I wasn't going to be doing a Sister Brides episode for this week just because it was a lot of the same thing, talk about the property and everything. So I wasn't going to do a second episode for that, or do an episode for that episode. And I was going to do one for Below Deck, but now it's a little too late. So I will do one to end it off the season, though. We do have the final season episode next week. So we'll talk about maybe just kind of close it up with that episode. But yeah, that's basically it. That is it for this episode. Young, Famous, and African is going to be coming eventually. We'll probably break it up with Last Resort like we're doing with this right now. But we do have Bachelor coming soon as well. So it's we're getting piled on, y'all. Anyway, that is it for this episode. So if you like what you heard, please rate, review the podcast on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, don't forget that you can also share us with everyone in your life if you really love this. And I do want to read those reviews. I'm definitely getting 5-star ratings, but I want to read those reviews. So send me those reviews and I will read those 4 and 5-star reviews on the podcast. Also, we're on every one of your favorite podcast apps, every one of them, including you can find us on YouTube at Reality Tea Times 2. If you want to connect with us, you can do so by going to either Facebook or Instagram at Reality Tea Times 2. You can also find us on Twitter, TikTok, Reddit at Reality Tea Times 2 Pod. We also have our email, which is at realityteatimes2 at hotmail.com. Definitely want to hear from you guys. And we also have our new website where you can listen to all of these episodes. You can review the podcast on there as well. You can connect with me in any way, all the stuff. It's all there. And you can find me there at www.realityteatimes2, all spelled out, .podpage.io. It's there. And don't forget, I also have my other podcast with my friend Mikkel, Next Take Podcast, where we talk about all kinds of different topics. But you can find us on any of your favorite podcast apps over there as well. Or you can also go to YouTube and you go to Next Take Podcast, as well as our website, which is solo.to/Next Take Podcast. So yeah, there's that, and that's basically that. And again, don't forget, if all of this information is overwhelming, we do have all of the links, everything in our show notes. But that is it for now, guys. Thanks. Bye.